What's up guys, Justin Greenwald here with 65drums.com. Today I'm going to show you how mixers, also known as soundboards, work. The modern drummer can't get away without knowing anything about soundboards. Sometimes you'll get in a situation where you just need to use one. Sometimes you'll have to become a temporary sound man. Or if you want to do any recording of your own, you're going to come across these things. It's just something handy that every single drummer should know how to use. I'm going to be showing you how a soundboard works on a much larger soundboard than this, but I just want to show you soundboards come in all shapes and sizes. Some will be 8 feet long, literally, and they can be really intimidating with hundreds of knobs and faders, but it all boils down to this. This row of knobs just duplicated over and over again, because you'll have one row of knobs and faders for each individual instrument. That's why they can look like giant monsters. But it's actually boiled down to this one line of faders and knobs. So the soundboard I'm showing you right now is actually to the left of me. I'm gonna go from the top to the bottom and just show you how everything works. The first two things you see are actually an XLR and a 1/4-inch input. These are two different ways of connecting your instrument, either a guitar, a keyboard, or a drum set, to the mixer. This is an XLR cable. It's got 3 pins like this. This is great for long distances. The signal won't distort or anything over long distances. That's why most of the time you'll plug into the soundboard with one of these cords. And the other input is a 1/4-inch input. This is what you see coming out of a lot of keyboards, a lot of guitars, and a lot of electronic drum sets. So that's why we use direct boxes. I have a whole dedicated video showing you how this all works. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. But this is like the 30-second recap of that. This is a direct box right here. The main purpose is so that you can turn this cable into this cable. Plug one cable in, and then another cable comes out. And you can also have a ground lift button on here, so that buzz that you hear, this also can get rid of that buzz. That's another reason why you might want to use a direct box. So most of the time, if you're halfway across the room, get yourself a $50 direct box, and then plug your electronic drum set into the box, and then plug an XLR cable from the box to your soundboard, and things will sound a whole lot better. So right below that, we have this low cut button. If you're wondering what that is, that gets rid of a bunch of frequencies that are like really low and rumbly. You press that if you're like plugging in a mic or something, because you want to get rid of those very low rumbling frequencies that, you know what, don't add to the vocal sound that you want. But for a lot of instruments, you don't even need to press that. Below that, we have the gain knob. Think of the gain knob as a gate. If the signal coming into the soundboard is way too quiet, like if you got a quiet singer, you can turn up the volume with the gain knob. It's like a preamp. And let's say if the signal is coming in way too hot, the guitar player turned up the volume on his guitar way too much, you can actually turn the gain knob down and it lowers the volume of the sound coming in. This works in tandem with the fader that's farther down on the soundboard. I'll explain that in a second. So right below that, you have your EQ knobs. The EQ knobs let different kinds of signal through the soundboard. So if you think of the gain knob as a gate that lets certain amounts of signal into the soundboard, think of the EQ knobs as a bunch of little mini gates that allow different amounts of parts of that signal. Because each of those EQ knobs control different frequency bands of the sound that's coming into the soundboard. I'm gonna have a dedicated video about this later on, but EQ can usually be divided into 3 things: high, mid, and low. Low is basically your bassy subwoofer type sounds. High is the treble, it's that really high pitched sound. For drums, that would be like the cymbals and everything. And mid is halfway in between those two sounds. On this particular mixer, we've got 4-band EQ. So you've got high, mid-high, low-mid, and low. And more expensive mixers will have like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 8 or 10-band EQ. And that gives you more control because it's a bunch of little mini gates of the entire spectrum of frequencies of the sound. So below that, we have our aux knobs. The aux knobs control the monitors that are on stage. So as you can see on this mixer, there are 2 rows of aux knobs going across the board. And that means there can be 2 different mixes going into the monitors. So let me give you a simplified example to show you how this works. Let's say that there are only 3 musicians on stage right now. Channel 1 is the drummer, channel 2 is the singer, channel 3 is the guitar player. Okay, so the drummer gets the monitors coming from aux 1, and the singer and the guitar player share the monitors coming from aux 2. The drummer tells the sound guy that he needs a lot more drums in the mix, he needs a lot more of the singer in the mix, and he needs less guitar player in the mix. And the singer and guitar player want less of the drums in the mix and less vocals in the mix, but they want more guitar. So what you do is first you go and get what the drummer wants. You turn up the drums, and since the drums are in channel 1, you turn up the aux 1 in channel 1. You go over to aux 2, the drummer wants less vocals, so you turn that one down. And then you turn up the guitar in channel 3. See, that one row of aux knobs. Go down, and they want less of the drummer, so you turn down the drummer, and then you turn up the guitar and turn down the vocals. Now everyone is happy, their monitor mix is set. Below that, we have the pan knob. That's so you can send the sound to the left speaker or the right speaker or equally to both speakers. If you want to keep it going through both speakers, just keep the pan knob going straight up and down. Below that, we have the solo and the mute buttons. With the solo button, if you press the solo button, the sound man can only hear that particular instrument. If you press the mute button, you can only hear all the other sounds, but you can't hear the sound in that channel that you muted. Below that, you have the fader. This works in tandem with the gain knob. The fader is basically a volume control for that instrument. And there are a couple of philosophies on how you should use this in tandem with the gain knob. Some people say turn up the gain just enough so that when the fader is at 0 right here, then everything will sound fine. Over on the bottom right, we have the master faders. The master faders are the overall volume of everything going to the PAs. As you can see, there are 2 of them for the right and left speaker. Keep them sort of close together as you're turning them up. You don't want to turn them up too much or you'll get a lot of squealing and a lot of deaf people. Next to that, we also have the master aux sends. So this is the overall volume of that mix you set up on the soundboard for the monitors. That's just the overall volume of how loud the monitors actually are. Also, you can plug in your headphones to monitor the mix. You can control your headphone volume with this knob right here. The great thing about headphones is that you can do it in total silence. You don't even need the PAs to be even on. However, make sure if you're mixing all the sound that you're using studio headphones. Studio headphones that are EQ'd completely flat, because if you're using Beats headphones or something like that to EQ a soundboard, Beats headphones are very, very bassy. So that by the time you mix all the instruments and everything, all the instruments will sound very unbassy. They will sound completely tinny because you mixed it according to some bass heavy headphones. So just make sure you're using studio type headphones that are EQ'd flat when you want to mix a soundboard. Those are the basics of a soundboard. I know there's a lot I didn't cover, but this will get you up and running. Hope that helped. Thank you for watching. I make a new video about electronic drums and just drumming in general every single Sunday, sometimes an extra one in the middle of the week. If you want to learn more about sound design, I've actually made a couple of other videos about that, including a really handy video on how compression works. That is really, really useful for electronic drums. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below if you want to check that out. If you want to check out my drum covers, it's on my Instagram page. My Facebook page has all my channel news. I will see you guys next week.